So I've seen this, it's old now, it's 4 years old, but I thought it would be an interesting read. It's my experience on set, an AVGN movie adventure. Hey, Reddit guys and gals. I thought I would take a moment to share with you my limited experience as an extra during a shooting day of the AVGN movie. This subreddit has its focus, and I agree with some of it, but this brief retrospective won't just be a shit taken on James, or that movie. Which, yeah, isn't any good. This will be neutral and honest. Okay, fair enough. Let's get into it. It's 2012, summer. I was living in Los Angeles, struggling wannabe actor, writer, working dead-end retail, retro game nut, broke and despondent. Happened to notice that the AVGN movie is looking for extras for a day of shooting somewhat close to where I live. Send an email, exchange some correspondence, and the next thing I know, I'm an extra in the movie. Couple of things. The AVGN movie was running ragged on money, and I mean badly. It isn't uncommon for people to work on cheap on a passion project, but extra work, unless you're working on a nickel and dime student film, is almost always paid. Why? Because it sucks. It sucks horribly, and it's the lowest point on the totem pole for acting. I like the reference there. Balls on the dick. The AVGN extra parts weren't paid. I'm actually not convinced that very many people outside of the main casts of actors and technicians were paid much of anything. Yeah, I think that's true. James was saying that a lot of people actually helped out for free because he had a lot of goodwill back then, so a lot of people willing to do graft for him, you know. I don't think that would happen now, but yeah. Anyway, where was I? Not to criticise this too heavily, again, it's a passion project, so there's some wiggle room here. But that goes to show you how badly the Indiegogo money had tanked for them, even by that point. As hundreds of others will tell you, shooting anything big in LA is incredibly unrealistic without millions of dollars. And even most of those productions shoot on green screens or surprise somewhere else entirely. Yeah, so that seems to be the biggest issue really. James spent so much money paying those LA film taxes and hiring a cast there, that if he shot it locally, he would have saved a lot more money. Plus, he would have had, his local talent. You wouldn't have to get those those randoms that he got in LA. But, yeah. Woke up at 4 AM, took a bus to get to another bus to get to another bus to get to an old water treatment plant in a remote section of southern LA. Call time was 8 AM. You probably think it's dumb for me to have travelled 4 hours to work on a movie I wasn't getting paid for. In retrospect, I sure do, so that's okay. Yeah, man, I understand. If he was filming it in my area, I would totally do this. I was still a huge AVGN fan back then. You know, I might even do it now. If he was around, I was like, yeah, why not? But not travelling for 4 hours. But I was a fan and was hungry for exposure one way or another. Once I got there, I sat at a bus stop waiting for the shuttle for about 30 minutes until other people started showing up, including some post-production people and a few extras. Worked with 3 other extras that day. These 3 guys weren't involved in acting in any way and were hardcore fanboys through and through. Sound like Screamwave. Awkward, bumbling, uncomfortable, and slightly aggressive about nearly everything. Yeah, definitely Screamwave. God forbid you do not know the precise pixel count for a fucking Apple or NES Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers or some shit. 2 of the extras had flown in from out of state. Texas, if I remember right. They weren't getting paid either. They completely blew my brains to bits. One of them bragged about getting a signed picture for being an Indiegogo donor, to which the other extra asked, "How much did that cost?" This guy, this arrogant twerp, says with a snide delight, "Not cheap, dude." Signed pictures was like the bottom tier reward, $20 maybe. Oh god, I know the type, mate. Right. Talked to April quite a bit. I know this sub likes to have its fun, but in all honesty, she was very personable and genuine. She took care of an absolute heap of bureaucratic responsibilities for the movie, including making appointments, corresponding with extras, renting stuff and managing the shuttles, handling the caterers, etc. Despite what you may have concocted in your brain, she's a totally normal person. She was easy to deal with on set. And if you know anything about working on a movie, that's huge. Okay, that's fair, man. Yeah, I know she gets a lot of shit too. I said in my other video that she's not a public figure. I don't really shoot for her because she's not on the videos. She's not really involved in Cinemassacre. It's great that James took her to help him with the movie set. He needed somebody close because everybody else was a bit of a stranger, wasn't he? You know, Bootsy wasn't there, Mike wasn't really there, Justin wasn't there. Like, that was probably his only go-to. Right, weirdly, the one time I saw her and James together on set, they seemed very quiet with one another, maybe even distant. Oh well. Yeah, I think they were both stressed with the whole situation working there. James said even, like, he had to fund some of the movie himself. So they're probably just the stress of the whole thing. Him dipping into his reserves. Yeah, let's continue. Anyway, call time was 8 AM. The extras didn't do one damn thing until at least 10, maybe even later. Annoyingly common for extra work. We were involved in only 2 scenes, which were clocking in under 3 minutes each, including that cardboard robot sequence, of which I am one. They must have done about 30 takes of the big scene in the main water plant, with the giant aluminium sphere and everything. The one where the general balls out the scientists and everything. The scene was never better or worse from one take to another. Still, 30 takes? It felt frustrating to say the least. Lunch didn't happen until 3 PM. The extras I was saddled with decided to go and eat before the crew, which you don't do, and therefore the extras were punished and weren't allowed to eat until 4. That was nice. So, here's what you came for, James. I spoke to James once during some random downtime and once during lunch. Keep in mind this was 2012 James, so he was in much higher spirits than I imagined him today. The first time we spoke, the other 3 nerve-grating extras absolutely mobbed him for photos. I was annoyed even as an observer. In his defence, James took it like a champ. Yeah, fair enough. We've seen, who's that guy that, the fuck's his name again? Jesus. Detractor. And he's saying, he's asking James, do that iconic frown face. What do you think of this board game? And James is absolutely getting tarted out by this guy. He was very patient, took as many pictures as they wanted, and even tried to seem excited about it. I took one photo because James asked me if I wanted one too, and I'd figured, why not? I said something to the effect of, I really appreciate your work, to which James barely listened, responding with, you guessed it, uh-huh. Yeah, he would do that, wouldn't he? Man, I can just hear that. I could just hear him doing that. He was ultra distracted though. Yeah. Give him a little break. On the other hand, during lunch, James was rather affable and moved from one table to the next to talk to everyone he could. This was nice, but James, as an individual, is extremely shy. Yeah, I can see that. Immensely reserved and tragically inept with strangers. He rarely made eye contact, kept a strange plastic smile on his face, and mostly muttered in agreement about nearly everything that would be said. I could definitely vouch for his possible disability, or at the very least a severe case of social anxiety. Yeah, I mean, it's just obvious with the look back to when Screenwave and the rental review started. James was so awkward, and it's his show, and it was like he was just a random stranger that they invited in, or like a Make-A-Wish guest. He's just it takes him a while to get used to like his peers. Other actors from the movie were pretty forgettable. The girl, Mandy or whatever, wouldn't put her phone down or shut up about being in some cheap indie pilot or another that no one has ever heard or ever seen. Vacuous and vain. Talked with the general guy a little, and he was alright. A classic older guy in LA doing his thing. Pretty down to earth. Don't think I talked to the others. There was definitely the classic divide between extras and principals. And the crew never let you forget it. Yeah, I've heard that it can be quite a ball ache being an extra on these sets, and kind of treated as like a second-class citizen. But sometimes I can see why. It sounds like these extras get ahead of themselves, like the slobs that you mentioned earlier, trying to big up the photos they got from James. Not cheap, dude. Anyway, as a production, the AVGN movie was a complete mess. There was a strange sense of separation during shooting. Like, no one was entirely sure who had the power to make the final call. James would say some stuff, everyone would smile at him and be agreeable, but Kevin was there and said twice as much, to which several other technicians, including assistant directors, would disagree and argue for a while. A simple scene like the one with the giant metal ball should have taken an hour to shoot. That one scene took 3 hours minimum, which made sense with the lack of central leadership. From what we said earlier, James's shyness and his ineptitude to talk with strangers and be confrontational is a bit of a downfall when it comes to directing. You kind of have to be a bit of a dickhead, don't you? Like, I'm not a filmmaker, you know. I've made 400 films, but I'm not a filmmaker. You just need to, like, get your message across and just fucking, you know, you're paying these people. It's your vision. Make them do what you're paying them to do. But I think James struggles with that shit, but yeah, anyway. From my experience at a distance, it looked a whole lot like Kevin was mostly in charge, and that James was fighting to be involved as often as he could, but was far too timid to step on anyone's toes. There was allegedly a heap of squabbling going on between everyone else, high school style. Also, to be perfectly frank, from that one day of shooting, I knew the movie would turn out badly. Or that's what I strongly suspected anyway. The script was poorly written. I knew that from having to hear the lines. The props were cheap, looked bad, the tech crew couldn't agree on 2 things for 10 minutes, stuff kept going wrong, James was floating around in a damn trance. When something shit the bed, and a lot of things shat the bed, no one knew who to ask for guidance, Kevin or James. Weirdly, April was one of the few people who seemed to know what was up, but she was only a coordinator, so that's much easier for her to take ownership of. It was a long, long day. Yeah, I think this is one of the reasons why you don't see James being as ambitious anymore. You know, he had all these plans to make these types of horror films and expand on, you know, his filmography, but he's just like settling down into an easy life right now, which, fair enough, if he wants to do that. As a parting gift, we were each given a single signed picture, the same one that the arrogant extra from Texas was so proud of, given for free. Not cheap, dude. That almost made it worth it, but not really. It was an exhausting shoot in an abandoned water plant with no air conditioning. No food was available most of the day, limited water, and everything behind the camera was a frantic disaster. I think James likes to see himself as a smaller scale Lloyd Kaufman, but given how much shit there was in the movie, both on and off the camera, I think I agree. Anyway, dumb little story, hope you enjoy it. Yeah, thank you for that. What's the Reddit name? Mambatron? What do you think of these little movies I make? What? I'm a director.
Are you?
Yeah, I've made 400 films.
Films?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've
but,
seen
yeah,
my...
but they're like, how long? Like 30 seconds?
Doesn't matter. They're films.
Okay.
What do you think of them? What's your opinion?
I mean, I've got like no idea about this whole AVGN.
AVGN?
AVGN thing.
Actually, it's AVGN.
All I know is like those weird memes you say like 540 and stuff.
540, yeah, I know. I need help, don't I?
And then the big.
What's that?
There's the big it's like a dragon thing.
The dragon in your dreams.
And the big cock.
And the big cock, yeah. The 10-incher.
Yeah. That's all. I have no like context, so I don't really.
You don't need context for that. Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, it's good.
It's good. Oh, thank you very much. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.